Forbes, Diamond Dental in Cedar Rapids, Streets Maintenance, the Ox Yoke Inn in the Amanas, Premier Automotive in North Liberty, Harty and Captain Jewelers 101 South Dubuque Street, downtown Iowa City, the Midtown Family Restaurants, Suple's Flowers, home of 1-800-800-ROSE, G.G. Carr, his great crew at Suple's Building and Remodeling, Mike's E-Keys for cars, Hawkeye Title and Settlement, Steve Anderson's place, and Patrick Eads and his staff and service department at Deary Brothers Ford on Mormon Trek. Here's Tom Suter, along with Pat Harty from HawkFanatic.com.
We are soon. Okay. That do it?
Don't turn the
Now we
alarm
go.
on.
There we go.
There
we go.
Iowa will soon be the best offense in America.
Yep.
Almost guaranteed.
Everything is
A-okay.
completely changed.
It's like Kevin Bacon's character in Animal House when the riot, when the people are scrambling.
Yeah.
But you got to see how it plays out. Iowa still have Iowa. I don't believe they made it official yet.
Not that I've seen.
I haven't checked my
Yeah,
email.
we haven't got any official.
I know they weren't. They said nothing was going to be released yesterday, and we football scoop. I was on a walk. Figures I was on a walk about 1.5 miles, 2 miles away from home when it broke. Football scoop was the first one to have it. At least that's what I was told. Because by the time I got home, we were joking. Members in the Iowa media had confirmed it, and then some had confirmed it with 2 sources and 3 sources, and it was kind of
one had it first.
Well, no, nobody in the Iowa media had it first. This was
one said they did.
First,
nobody had it.
Rittenberg was the first I saw.
Yeah, and Football Scoop had it a little bit before he did, but no, this was broken on the. I'm just surprised it wasn't Pete Thamel.
He's
usually the guy,
top guys.
But this Football Scoop thing, this is what they do. Coach, this is a lot of what there's just coaching changes and stuff like that. So, but yeah, Tim Lester, and one thing we've heard is that Kirk was waiting for the NFL, and this makes sense in this case if he's wanted to talk to Tim. Green Bay's only been out for a while, and I wrote. I've got mixed reviews or mixed opinion on this. This narrative that Kevin Johns was going to be better than Tim, where's that coming from? How do we know?
We don't.
You don't know. My concern and what I told you is if you go through this whole process, 3-month the rumor mill, all the pandering that goes on, all the, hey, look at this hot nugget I got. The Scott Frost nonsense, Chip Kelly, all that stuff. There wasn't one.
Bill O'Brien.
There wasn't one Power 5 offensive coordinator from another school, that was ever linked to this job search. Do you recall?
I do not.
Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but to me, my concern was just the field of candidates.
Well,
if it truly was Chris
well
and Philbin and Marion from UNLV, he's another one that's supposedly interviewed. If none of them are, Chris is in a temp job, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, well, sure. And so is
Philbin. Yeah, but I believe Philbin's also maybe phasing into retirement,
Yeah.
And then Kevin Johns is unemployed right now.
Yes.
And Tim Lester is in what I would call a gap job, waiting for something like this. At Green Bay, he was getting ready to become the Troy offensive coordinator. And, of course, Kirk hit him an offer he couldn't refuse. And I don't think he had Luka Bronsky standing there helping him to make the offer either.
No.
I think Lester's like, why would I go to nothing against Troy, but this is way more money, a bigger stage, and what have you. And so that's how that worked out, but I don't recall any other Power 5 offensive coordinator being linked to this job. And am I being nitpicking, or does that concern you at all? It just makes my concern is that the reputation of the Iowa offense right now is.
They've earned it.
I know they've earned it, but I'm just saying this is an example of it's out there.
Yeah. Well, and my take on it is no, we don't know that Johns would have been a better choice than Lester.
To assume that is ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
Lester may end up being better. You don't know.
The other thing is we don't know how good this guy's going to turn out. He could be great,
or he may be more of the same.
Or he could be more of the same
because he's not capable, but. How much freedom is Kirk going to get?
Don't know.
This is the 4th coordinator, and the offense has rarely changed. It's hardly changed at all. And the personnel is similar. They've got some nice pieces on offense, but the offensive line is very underwhelming. And
well, they're at least now they're experienced.
Well, they were experienced last year.
Yeah.
I mean, they had over 100. I mean, they went into last year with tons of starts. I mean, Mason Richmond's going to be a 4-year starter at left tackle. I mean, he was a 3-year starter last year. I mean, it's experience is not the issue. They got to get better. And the other thing I asked you about is I find it hard to believe that Kirk would hire this guy if Christ, who we've told was the target to begin at the beginning, and that he withdrew, or Philbin wanted this job. Don't you? So it makes me wonder if both of them did ultimately decided they didn't want it.
I would say that's my guess.
I just couldn't. Can you see Kirk giving it to Lester if Philbin really wanted the job with his experience?
I'm just, I'm
but
not
we're
sure.
just guessing. I mean,
we are. And from the scuttlebutt from people is that Lester just interviewed really well and said probably all the things that Kirk was looking for. And I think he's going to fit what Kirk wants.
Well, that's what this was. That's what this turned out to be.
Yeah.
And it's, I mean, but like I said, I'm not ready just to assume it's going to be a failure, but I'm also not, oh, this is it. Yep, this is the hire. Things are changing.
Yeah, Suter, this is where you say it can't get worse.
No, I'm never saying that again.
Well, didn't Kenny Loggins have a song, This Is It?
This is it, yeah.
That's, we'll play that as the theme to this. Did you like that song?
That's okay.
This is it.
Yeah.
It was the theme song for the national tournament for a year or two.
For basketball?
Yes.
Was it
Yeah.
really? This
Yeah.
is it.
In
Actually
fact,
was.
when we had our Final Four run, it was the theme.
Wow.
Yeah. This is it.
This is it. Cousin it.
And it has been it. We have been back.
Well, that's true. But no, but like I said, my concern is more big picture. That it just, to me, if it truly was Chris and Philbin and Marion and Johns and Lester, they all have one thing in common, in that none of them are at any place near as good as the job that they were in. And I know you always want to, but you hear lots of times about, oh wow, did you see Mississippi got so and so to leave 10? I mean, that just didn't seem like that was in the works at all in this search.
No. Well, time will tell, and.
Because, like I said, I would love to have had Nate Shieldhouse at least as a candidate for this job. Maybe they reached out to him. Who knows?
And maybe he wasn't interested.
Well, that's my concern.
Very possible.
That would be my concern. If you're Nate Shieldhouse, would you leave Iowa State right now for Iowa? What if there's a $500,000 raise?
I would consider it.
Yeah,
you have to.
But maybe Kirk never even
might not have.
may not have considered him. But yeah, I don't recall one Power 5 offensive coordinator, or even a Power 5 like quarterback coach or anything mentioned with this job. All the candidates had something in common, either in gap fill jobs or currently unemployed. And that's probably. We'll see what Don says. I mean, Don's going to do some research on Tim. When I talked to him, he was going to take some time to find all the stuff he can on him. And we got to remember, too, even if Don did have some serious issues with Tim, he's not going to come on here and start ripping. He's just not going to do that.
Of course.
He's not going to, rip anything that anybody that Kirk hires, because he's just not that way. And I mean, this guy, one thing I will say, he's more qualified than the previous coordinator.
Without a doubt.
He's way more qualified than when Brian Ferentz took over in 2017, because when Brian Ferentz took over in 2007, he was way underqualified.
Yeah.
So from that standpoint, this is a step up. And it would have been a step up with any of the names that we mentioned that have been linked to the search.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess that is a step up. So, but yeah, Kirk was going to hire somebody that he is most comfortable with.
And he did that.
And I'm guessing Lester probably agrees with Kirk's principle that, hey, this offense isn't broke. It just needs to get better, and we're going to make it better. I still think that is Kirk's main theme. And Lester, maybe he presented himself well in that capacity. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I do believe that's what Kirk thinks. We just got to get better at what we do. It's worked before. It's going to work again.
Now, I watched a couple of Western Michigan's game that were on film, and it did seem like they have more vertical downfield.
I mean,
routes
they
than
did for
Iowa
some years.
has.
I mean, their last year under him.
Well, obviously nothing worked.
Well, they had some years. I mean, they went to 3. Didn't they win their division 2 or 3?
Yeah.
I mean, he was 32-27. I think he went to 3 bowl games, but they gradually got worse. And the last year, their offense was terrible.
They were terrible. Yep.
And it seemed weird though when I looked at it. I'm like, wow, they didn't waste any time in firing him.
Well,
I mean, for the success he had in years 1 through 4, and then after boom, done. I thought it was kind of a quick fire, but
yeah,
hey,
seemed like it.
We got Adam.
We got Adam on. How'd you know it was Adam?
Clairvoyant.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. How you doing, Adam?
Hey, good morning, guys.
All right.
Well, we're gonna. This is an action. This is actually a hyphenated show, action packed, with Adam and Don both on the same show. Is that why you're just
Taking on each other.
Well, you got such a proud look on your face. Is that why?
Well, Adam's younger and stronger.
Yeah.
Money's on you, Mr. Haluska.
Yeah, no knock on Don, but I think I'd give Adam that knock.
No,
I'm
look,
guessing Don would agree with us.
Don's tough.
Don would also have analytics going into it.
I'm sure everybody wants to hear Don here at 10 o'clock.
Well, we're going to do hoops in because, hey, I mean, big, huge win for the men. I mean, I know it's only Michigan and they're 2-7, but still, it's a Big Ten opponent
On the road.
Adam, how impressed with you with how they bounced back, and specifically, I want you to talk. Of course, Sanford was huge, and we'll get to that. But man, Tony Perkins is playing like a senior should play. Just talk about his all-around game right now.
Yeah, I mean, Tony's really stepped it up, and you can kind of sense maybe a little bit of urgency might be the word.
Yeah.
You know, I've always felt like Tony's an impressive athlete. You know, one of the best defenders, just one of the most explosive players we have. But sometimes he disappears.
He does.
It's
fair
been
enough.
nice to see the consistency, especially here these last few weeks where he's just, man, he's grinding and he's giving us everything from, you know, outside and, you know, those mid-range jump shots and yeah, and again, Peyton was one of those two. I even kind of told my boys I was watching the game on Saturday, and I said, hey, Peyton needs to step up. I think he had 5 at halftime and ended up exploding for 21 points in the second half and ended up with 26. But you know, we need those guys, especially the older guys, to step up. You know, Owen Freeman, can't say enough about his minutes, 36 minutes, you know, 15 and 9. Huge game for having a freshman that's playing on the road and, you know, an environment like that. So, yeah, all around, I don't care what the record is. Anytime you can go into Michigan and get a win, any Big Ten road win is huge, and you could just tell the excitement on the guys' faces. They were elated, and hopefully that kind of springs this into the next game coming up with Indiana.
And with Sanford, I mean, he's not a youngster. He's midway through his junior year. I mean, the time is now. And when he's making threes at him, they're just a completely different team. I mean, it just seems like that opens up so much when he's hot.
Yeah, we're rolling, and you can tell when he's feeling it. He's ready to just start slinging those shots around, and he's got such a quick trigger. It was good to see that. You could tell, you know, he needed a game like that just to kind of unwind a little bit. 6 of 8 from 3.
Yeah.
Huge game. And I think the one statistic, too, you know, as the game kept moving along, you're like, well, they're 10 for 10 or 11-11. I mean, we ended up 18 of 18 from the free throw line, and that's
I didn't
incredible.
I didn't even mention that in my story.
That's
I overlooked, but you're right. That is incredible.
It is, and especially when you got guys like Owen Freeman stepping up, making 5, and you know Patrick had 2. I mean, it just all around, all those guys. It's not like one guy had, you know, was 12 of 12, and a couple other guys chipped in. I mean, we had a bunch of guys at the free throw line, and I mean, that's going to win you ball games. It
looks like Patrick may be kind of slipping into the 6-man role, which I think if he doesn't mind it, I
think that's fine.
You got to love a 6'9" guy coming in as your 6-man, can do that on the press and what have you. But you see that, Adam, maybe that kind of being his role down the stretch, because France seems pretty set on this starting lineup right now.
Yeah, and I think it's working right now.
Yeah.
I mean, again, if we could go back, it'd be great to get that Maryland game. You know, we get beat by 2. They're a good team, but you know, at home, 69-67. I mean,
it was
we should have won
loss.
that game.
Tough.
And you look at our second half of the Big Ten here, that would have been a great win to pick up and, again, carried into this Michigan game and then on to Indiana. But I guess you learn from those tough losses. You could tell, like, Peyton and some of those guys really took it hard. So, again, losses can be good if you can springboard that into, you know, never letting some of that stuff or the breakdowns happen. And so, yeah, I think Patrick's role, he's unselfish and, you know, whatever he can do to help the team. He still had 21 minutes, so – you know, him and Dix, depending on who's starting, at some point maybe it always doesn't matter. If you can bring in Patrick's energy and, like you said, his length and put him on the front of that press, I think that's really effective. So he's still getting great minutes, and, you know, to me, you go with what's working, and it seems like for now that's been a pretty good lineup for Fran.
So if we look at Indiana a little bit, I don't believe Woodson has beaten Fran since he got there, has he?
I don't believe so.
I don't think so, but like I said, I don't have the notes in front of me.
Don't believe he has, but and it's not Bobby Knight's Indiana either, but it's going to be a tough game.
Yeah, I mean, if it was at Carver, I'd feel a lot more confident. But Adam, I mean, it's only one number, but the difference between being 3-6 going into this game or 4-5, that's huge to get that win up at Michigan. Because not saying it means you can play free and easy here, but they'd be under so much pressure if they had lost that Michigan game.
Yeah, I mean, you're really at the bottom half of the Big Ten. A win here coming up kind of puts us right back to
500.
500, yeah. and if you look at this, I mean, besides Wisconsin and Purdue, it really starts to get tight in there.
Yes.
You got Illinois, Northwestern at 6-3, and then you got Nebraska, Maryland, Minnesota, Indiana, and Iowa. I mean, they're all right around that 5-5 or 4-5 number. So there's a lot of jockeying, including Michigan State as well. So it's a weird year in this conference. There is so much, kind of parity where guys are knocking each other off. The one thing I'll say, Assembly Hall, incredible place to play in.
Yep.
Great atmosphere. That's whether they're winning or losing, ranked or unranked. I mean, they're 9-2 in home games, and those are going to be tough places to play. They shoot it well at home. We just, we're going to have to come out and really just stay with them early. And I think the longer we can hang around in a game like that and have Perkins and, a guy like Peyton get hot again, that would be that's going to be key for us.
What I remember first time I walked into Assembly Hall is just how vertical it is. A lot of these basketball arenas kind of go more of a gradual. This thing, it's like a concert hall almost. Did you like playing there?
I loved it. Yeah, just the history. I mean, I was always a huge Hawkeye fan. You guys know, growing up as a kid, blood black and gold. But I loved Indiana basketball, just the history and Bob Knight and obviously the movie Hoosiers. And, so I always was kind of drawn to Indiana. Loved Calbert Chaney back in the day and some of those teams.
Yes.
And so for me to walk into Assembly Hall and you get to walk through and you get to see all the different trophies and the history, and you're right, when you walk in, it doesn't feel like a normal arena. In back of the baskets are really kind of shortened up, and you get the student section, which they always come out kind of like Iowa State and get rowdy. And then when you look on the sides, I mean, it just feels like it almost disappears. It's vertical and goes straight back. But it seats, 17,000, 18,000 fans. I mean, maybe it's a little overstated, but it seats a ton of people, and it gets loud in there. And it's a fun environment to play in, and it's an even better place to go in and get a win.
I almost got into a fight there with an Indiana student. I was in press row. They used to have press row right behind the Indiana student section. And there was this student, he had to have been drunk. And this was a long time. I was in my late 20s, early 30s, a long time ago. And this student was just being really mean to the old media guys in the Iowa media. And I said something, and he said, "You want to go?" And we sort of had to be separated. And then Hecker from the Gazette wrote about it. He wrote about it, saying that that they needed better security. It was ridiculous. I mean,
did he use your name?
I believe he did.
Yeah.
He did.
Right.
And luckily we didn't come to blows or anything, but it was not a good situation. But it's just there's so many. Adam, that
Adam,
student
could you
section,
take Harty?
That student section.
I'm taking Harty all day long.
Oh yeah, I don't think that's. This kid though. I would have had a good chance with it. He not real threatening. Adam's 6'5" and young and spry. This kid wasn't much younger than me. I mean, because I was probably in my late 20s, early 30s at that time. There was still hope back then.
This was combative Harty back then.
Well, I didn't. I just was trying to stick up for the other people, and then when he said, "F you Iowa, POS," all that stuff. And I'm like, I'm sitting here dealing with a freaking call. But that's because they had our section right behind the students, which I think they have moved it. But no, I'm not to seize this interview. But, Adam, I mean, it's just their student section's pretty well. What was the worst student section for you to play against? Which one bugged you the most, if any of them did?
Yeah, at that time when we came through, it was definitely Michigan State and Illinois.
Okay. That's
and
what I
they
figured.
were low, down on the floor, and they came early. I think I've said it before on this. I mean, we would come out, and if you come early enough, you've got, guard, forward, breakdown, and shoot-arounds, and those guys were they were all over us in basically an empty arena like an hour before the game or maybe even an hour and a half, and some of these students were already out ready to go.
Like playful stuff or really mean?
They'd find stuff about family or, whatever, and, whatever they could find online.
Think about that.
Wow.
And again, it wasn't one of those where like, oh man, this is terrible. I really did enjoy it, and we had a pretty good run there, sophomore, junior, senior year, and we had there's good teams, and you had, when you go to some of those environments, and Michigan State was always a top 15 team, Illinois was top 10 when we were going through. I mean, there's some passionate fans, and I know you've wrote about it, but you look at our student section, and you stick them off to the side, and they're just almost
gone
out of the way.
Out of the way.
They're an afterthought.
They're right on top of you, and they're right there. And it is it's a cool environment, not just for the students where they feel like they're a part of it, but even for opposing players and home team. It's a great atmosphere to play in front of. It's almost like a high school gym that's packed, and you get the students right there. It just adds to the entertainment.
And the reason I think the student section could be moved pretty easily without a major – Adam, you've seen it, and Tom, there's so much wasted space around the perimeter of the court at Carver. Wouldn't you agree? Behind both, there's just a ton of stuff there, and there's talk about they're going to be building. There's a feasibility study where they need to get some concession stuff. There's just stuff they could do. And the other thing is they need more bathrooms, don't you think?
For sure.
Oh, yeah.
They have to get more restrooms.
All the amenities need to be updated and added.
But move the student section behind the benches, put a bunch of bleachers there so they will stand. And so then every time the TV shows the picture of the Iowa game with the benches, right behind them are going to be the students. Don't you agree, Adam? Isn't that what you would prefer?
I would. I'd put them right behind the opposing team bench.
Yes, and have at it.
Of course, then you'd lose all those black seats, and those are your donors.
I know, but there's got to be room somewhere. Somebody with a little creativity find a place to put the donors and hope the donors would understand this is helping the product, helping the home court advantage. I mean, that's kind of how I look at it. But, okay, well, let's go.
And it's hard. I mean, I think, too, like if you had a chance to start over, do you build something that's 12,500 fans? Do you put some suites up, students down low, make it a multi-purpose, facility?
Mm-hmm. Good point.
I mean, on a wish list, right? I mean, Carver's, I love it. It's a great shooting arena.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great environment. But, again, as you see sports change, what do people want? You can put the donors up in those suites, and it's just hard to do that when you're built into just a concrete, just basically basement, a hole, and it is what it is. Yeah,
no, that's a good point. Whenever people see Carver for the first time with me, they're like, "Oh, so what are they doing with the roof?" If you see from the outside, it looks like
it looks like it's not finished.
It looks like it's not finished, and I'm like,
no.
And especially with the tarps now, they got like rust and stuff on it. It's not a real appealing look on the roof.
See, I've always wanted to see what you guys think about this. Is on the roof, have to figure out to make sure that it can handle it.
James Taylor song.
Have a big ass tiger hawk, well lit tiger hawk on top of Carver to welcome you in.
Yeah, but can they with the tarps?
I don't know.
It seems like they have a bunch of tarps and rods and stuff up there.
I don't know. If it
think
could
that would
support
be cool.
it, I think it would be really cool. And with the
you imagine they put it up there and all of a sudden it caves in. that wouldn't be
well, that
good.
wouldn't be good.
But no, it looks like it's not done.
Yes, it does.
It does. It looks like it's not finished. But no, the feasibility study supposedly concession stands and use of the area around where the band plays. There's so much space down there.
There is.
And Adam, does it make a difference when you're playing and like the students? Are there some games like everyone talks at Kinnick about how the fans are right on top of you? Is that a factor in basketball too for you guys?
I think so. I mean, it just adds to the electricity in the environment. I mean, if it's a home court advantage and you got the crowd behind you, it's big. I know those years when we played and games were sold out and you had huge attendance and the students were going crazy. I mean, we definitely felt like that was an advantage for us, playing at home.
Because I will say,
I'm sure these guys would say the same thing.
I mean, Alfred had the student section was rocking under Alfred.
It was
prior to the Pierce thing.
Yep.
I mean, it was the Hawks Nest had like 2,000 people, and it was different. It wasn't in a different area then too, though. It wasn't where it is now, was it? I thought it was more behind the Iowa bench then, wasn't it?
No,
or am I mixed up?
That corner. Yeah,
it was still off in the corner. Okay. I don't know why I'm thinking it was in a different area, but there were about 2,000 students.
But there was a real good support.
There really was. So it can happen. It can happen. And so, Adam, going into this game now, Indiana, when I watch them, they've always got great athletes, but it just seems like there's times where they can't shoot. And it seems like you can say that about several Big Ten teams now. They're pretty athletic, but what are going to be the keys? Obviously, Iowa's got to get off to a quick start. I mean, they got to do that, and they got to avoid first half turnovers.
Yeah, I would say that, and obviously stuff in the paint. You know,
yes.
You look at just kind of looking back when we played Michigan at home the first time. You know, Terrace Reed Jr. had 19 points, right, and we limited him to 7. So I think for a while there, we were really getting beat up inside. I think we've done a much better job. Obviously, Owen Freeman's getting better down low. We can use other guys on the bench if we have to. But those guys are going to have to stop the easy buckets down low. And, again, we got to hope for our perimeter defense to be really solid, make them take tough shots from the perimeter, and, you know, we got to rebound and go. And I know Fran's going to want to keep this, you know, the tempo. It seems like they always talk about it, but when we can get into kind of a track meet and you got guys that are shooting it like Peyton and Tony, we're a tough team to beat. So I think watch us to continue to try to get that pace up and try to score buckets.
How about when Peyton blew a kiss to the
– He did it twice.
That's just him. And, you know, Adam, you said earlier that, you know, when he's hot, you know, he keeps shooting. And I mean this as a compliment. Even when he's not hot, he keeps shooting. Now, he thinks every shot he takes is going in.
Yeah, he does. And that's the one thing I think a couple of years ago when he went into that real big slump and he finally shot his way out of it, he's going to keep throwing them up there. And Fran's got the ultimate green light for him. So if you're going to be a shooter like he is, you've got to have the coaches behind you. And yeah, there's not really a bad shot that I think he can take.
But don't most shooters have to have that mentality, though?
Yes, I would agree.
Yeah.
But I'll be honest. I mean, that mentally what he went through, I don't think I ever had a stretch like that. He really grinded. And I know if there was anybody putting in the work, coming in late, you know, I know he was working with a bunch of different coaches to try to get it figured out. He eventually got out of that, and, you know, he had some huge games for us. And even last year, Sixth Man of the Year, he did some really good things.
Well, Adam, part of the reason I don't think you ever had a stretch like that is with your size and quickness, you were able to manufacture a lot of really makeable shots in mid-range. Like, let's say your three wasn't working some game. I remember you'd get maybe 4 or 5 shots like in the lane, runners in the lane where, you're going to make – was that part of it? I mean, you could manufacture easier shots when you're in a slump or if your perimeter shot's not going in.
Yeah, I mean, and that was kind of our MO too. I mean, the offense that we ran was a little different, the kind of more traditional motion. And, you know, a lot of our sets weren't so much around the three-point game.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. I mean, the game has changed, right?
Yes.
The three-point game is so important. You see it at the NBA level, high school, college. But, yeah, we would try to run some sets to get that mid-range kind of curl cut, cuts to the basket, dribble penetration. And, again, for me, I've always told my kids too, or anybody, I mean, if you're missing shots and they're just not falling, what's a great place to go? Get fouled, get to the free throw line, get your shot right back, and then work from inside out until you can kind of get your range back in. But, you know, it's one of those where, again, Fran, he'd be a great guy to play for. He's got the green light. I don't think you have to worry about, I missed a shot, I'm going to get pulled. Maybe that was a bad shot or a quick shot. I mean, he may tell you, but he's got ultimate confidence in all these guys to shoot when they're open.
Yeah, and it's and I think with Sanford, I think his three-point shooting's huge because if you look at this roster, who on this team other than Sanford would you say three-point shooting is their number one weapon?
Josh Dix, maybe?
Maybe. I'm not ready to go there because I think his mid-range game is better, and I think he can be a decent three-point. They don't have a lot of three-point.
No,
in past years, France had 4 or 5 3. They don't have that. So doesn't that even put, I don't know if pressure, but Sanford's ability to hit threes at him down the stretch is going to be huge, right?
Yeah, real big. Yeah, when he's rolling, it feels like we're rolling as a team. You know, rarely does it feel like one of those games where it's just him and nobody else. But, again, with Tony's kind of resurgence here, he's playing 38 of the 40 minutes. I mean, he's kind of the Iron Man out there. He's playing like a senior. And if we can continue to have that kind of effort, just a couple of those guys. And it seems like Owen's just been so dang consistent, you know, with what he's given us. And, again, if Cricky can have a big game or two, I mean, we're one of those teams that, you know, between Perkins, Dick, Sanford, Cricky, Freeman, I mean, any of those guys can go off for 20 points pretty easy on any given night.
Yep.
You can't say that for a lot of Big Ten teams.
No. My only I guess my counter to that is of all those guys you just mentioned, none of them are great three-point shooters.
true.
That's
true.
why I think Fran thought Price Sanford would maybe, but he's not
there yet.
He's just not quite there yet. I think he will be at some point, but that's why I think there's even more of an emphasis on Sanford because DeSante Bowen is just not a 3-point shooter. Brock Harding, I think, might be some point, but he's not there now. Tony's a much better scorer than he is 3-point shooter. Wouldn't you agree, Adam?
Yes. Yep. I mean, he can get it from a lot of different ways,
yes,
which makes him deadly. And again, he was 2 of 4 the other night, but again, he's not going to force him, and he's not going to that's not option number 1 for him.
Yeah, and I don't know if Owen Freeman, he's not a 3-point shooter now. He may never be, but hey, if that's the one thing he can't do. But I don't want to nitpick, but I'm just saying why I think there's so much of an emphasis on Sanford. If he's hitting threes, they are a different team. So if you're Indiana, if you're Mike Woodson, I don't think he and Fran, I'm not sure they're the closest of buddies right now, but if you're Mike Woodson, what's your strategy going into this game with this Iowa team right now?
Well, I think for one, you're going to want to limit our 3-point shots.
Yes.
I mean, it feels like when we have some of those games where we shoot it well, we're a tough team to beat. I think you definitely want to cancel out. I'd really be hard on Cricky and Perkins and Sanford.
Yeah.
Not to say that you're not looking at guys like Owen Freeman, but he seems to be getting his. But try to take some of those other guys out. If you can limit their touches and just make it difficult. Any kind of real pressure on us, and we got to run the offense from, out far beyond the 3-point line, I would try to get up and guard us and maybe even slow it down a little bit, try to control the pace, kind of like what Maryland did.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was a pretty good script that they had, just made it difficult for us to kind of run stuff and get easy buckets.
And do you see what Maryland did? I know they were at home, but you see what Maryland did to Nebraska?
Boy, it was
just dismantled them.
Yeah.
I mean, Maryland's, they're 5-5 now. They're like what Adam said. They're one of those teams that's all grouped together other than maybe Illinois, Purdue, and Wisconsin. And this game is big for lots of reasons. To get them back to 500 in conference play is huge, but they need to they've got 3 home losses. They need to. They need. Adam.
To equal the ledger.
They need to equal the ledger. That's another thing this game could accomplish.
Yep. No, it's huge. If you can be in a position where you're at 500 after this game, you look at our schedule. We've got home versus Ohio State on the 2nd, and then you're at Penn State on the 8th. I mean, got a couple winnable games here. Let's get a 3-game road before, I guess, if you can get this piece of these all together. You just got to take it game by game, but then you got to look at it like there's winnable games out there to start getting ourselves up on this Big Ten podium.
And now shifting to the women briefly, I mean, I guess they deserve some conversation, don't they?
Sure do.
Hey, Adam, what do you think of Caitlin Clark? What'd she have, 38 and
10 and 7.
And it's just,
and she should have had about 11 or 12 assists.
A lot of bunnies missed.
Yeah, there sure were.
But hey, your thoughts on Caitlin Clark?
Well, I mean, I watched that game, and it started off a little slow.
It did.
And she's just such a sniper, man. She picks and chooses, and when she gets it going, it just doesn't stop. And so she's as exciting as I've ever seen. And so, I think losing Monica and some of the other, just not having the exact same team we've had last year, I'm really impressed with some of these other ones that have stepped up. And, we keep playing well. It could be a really fun run, come March.
It was so funny. I mean, Susan Harmon covered it for Hawk Fanatic, but I was watching on TV, and at the end, I mean, Caitlin was sitting on the bench at the end of the game, and there were these 2 girls right behind the Iowa bench.
Yes.
And one of them just tapped her and said, "Hey, can you sign?" And Caitlin's like, he goes, I will, but I can't do it right now. And then she looks at her teammates and starts. And sure enough, those girls, though, when that game was,
she did.
She was right there with them. She took photos. It was so funny, though, that girl had the nerve to tap her. Hey, would you sign this? There was still like 4 minutes to go in the game. I mean, the game was a runaway, but yeah, her popularity is incredible. And the other thing I measure her popularity by is now her haters are growing. If you know what I mean, though, I mean, the more popular, like Taylor Swift, the more popular you get, you know what I mean, Adam. And to me,
people get resentful of success
and jealous.
And
I mean that as a compliment. You're starting to see more haters out there trying to minimize what she does.
Yeah, and I think she handles it well.
I think she does, too.
I don't know who's worked with her, but just from a PR and media standpoint, she always seems to say the right things, and super high character and class act, represents this university and state extremely well. So, yeah, I think it just comes with the territory. Doesn't matter who you are. I mean, look at our big NBA superstars, and there's polarizing. They love them or hate them. So
that's true.
It doesn't matter what you do on or off the floor. You can't please everybody, and I think she's got the right attitude about it. I'm gonna do whatever I can to help this team win, and whatever comes along with it, so be it.
So what do you think of Sid Falter's play?
She's been huge. Yeah, just you can kind of see the confidence really step
Yep.
up, and I love how tough she is out there, and just again, she's a grinder. And I think too, that's you look at these other teams like an LSU and some of the other ones out there. I mean, we really do have a pecking order. Obviously, Caitlin has the ball in her hands a lot, but you look at like LSU with the Van Leith girl. She was one of those that kind of made things happen, not only for herself but teammates. And now she goes to LSU.
She's like the fourth option.
It's kind of like that old with the Miami Heat team that had Bosh, Wade, and LeBron. You have a bunch of superstars. How do you make it work? And I feel like we've got really good chemistry, and some of these girls really embrace that role of, hey, I'm a defender, or I'm going to rebound and score down low. I mean, it just seems like everybody has a role, and that's what makes Iowa women so tough to beat.
It's really fun this year in women's basketball because, like, just this last week, number 2, UCLA lost twice, number 3 lost, and number 4 lost, and LSU lost.
And South Carolina keeps on winning.
Keeps on winning. But it's fun.
And I think, too, like, women's basketball is getting much more popular.
Yes, it is.
You can see it in the AAU ranks and everything else. And so the parity is much better. It used to be back in the day when Tennessee was
and Connecticut.
Yeah. And Connecticut, yep. And then you had Baylor there for a while.
And every once in a while, Stanford.
All the 5-star athletes were just going to those schools, and everybody else was just kind of playing second fiddle.
Yep.
Now it's a little more even and spread out, and there's great players all over. It's kind of like the men's game. Anybody can beat anybody on any given night, and years ago, I don't think you could say that with those UConn teams and some of the teams that just felt like they were so stacked compared to the competition.
Well, and that's part of the beauty of Caitlin going to Iowa. I mean, she could have gone to any of those schools. And South Carolina is a juggernaut, but Iowa beat them last year.
They didn't. And Notre Dame took UConn apart the other day, too.
Yeah, UConn is a shell of what it used to be.
Too many injuries.
Just too many injuries, and I feel bad for Paige Back. But she's not equal to Caitlin Clark. I mean, she's had knee injuries. They're different players, but Caitlin is the most dynamic player in the game right now. She just is.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't think that you can even argue. But, Adam, before we wrap up, man, how about your former team? Did you watch any of the Iowa State-Kansas game?
Yeah, they're tough. And again, I think they do. Defense is a big part of their game, and they've got some guys that can definitely score, and they're big, strong, and athletic. I think when we played them, just a month or two ago when I was at Hilton, I mean, they were just physically.
They were
stronger, bigger, faster. I mean, it was they're an impressive team, and look for them to make a big run too. I think you get some of those times where you lose some games you shouldn't, but all in all, they've got they got a good team.
They do.
He's built it up, and I think they play hard and they do it the right way.
You think that toughness starts with his shirts that he wears during games? The ones that barely go over his biceps? What is it? His shirts always look so uncomfortable. What is going on with his shirts?
I don't know. He must get them tailored or slimmed down. He's got the trim fit.
What if Fran starts wearing those shirts? But yeah, I don't know. His shirts, for some reason, I let them bug me. But no, that was fun watching them. I mean, they are so connected on defense.
Yeah, they're it's a tough. I mean, when you get teams that grind like that and play D, I always put Wisconsin in there. I mean, just teams that when you buckle down and play defense, Purdue for that matter too. I mean, it's just. Some of those teams, they're always going to find a way to win, even on bad shooting nights. If you can lock in defensively and everybody's on the same page and buys in, you're always going to give yourself a chance to win.
Okay, Tom. Well,
one more thing. Have you gotten your Caitlin Clark Crunch Time cereal yet?
I did. I got to give a shout out. Tim and Kevin Doherty actually helped me out on that one, so they brought it in last week for me. They happened to have breakfast at Hy-Vee one morning when they came out. So other than that, I kept looking and couldn't find one. So those guys came through, and my kids are all excited.
All right. Well, that's great to hear, Adam. Great stuff as usual.
Yep.
We just killed a half an hour.
Hey, Adam, before you met your wife, was it really hard turning down Taylor Swift?
She didn't even exist when I met my wife.
Wow, does that make me sound old?
Yeah.
Yeah, we dated all through pretty much like high school and
That's
middle
what I
school.
thought.
So,
Didn't you guys
go to?
You guys grew up together, right?
We did. Yep.
That's like It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah.
Adam's George Bailey.
It was an arranged marriage.
There you go. Well, we'll end it on that note there. Adam, great stuff as usual. I'll be in touch, man. Thanks.
Awesome, guys. Have a good week.
Thank you, Adam.
Well, he's great. And,
Yeah.
but no, I do remember, though, about Adam. If he wasn't hot from three, Adam just had a unique way of getting to the basket and getting himself easy shots. Now, it helped being 6'5". He said that
Adam was a scorer.
He was a scorer. And I remember when I asked him, if you were 6 foot, 6'1", what do you think? He goes, I probably would have pursued track. I mean, the fact that you win the gene pool, that helps. And but no, that was fun. And now should we take a break and then we'll get ready for Chapter 2 with Don.
All right.
Action-packed, Captain. Hyphenated. This show is hyphenated.
1-800-800-ROSE.
1-800-800-ROSE. Your FTD florist is the only number you need to know to send flowers anywhere in the country or Canada from anywhere in the country.
1-800-800-ROSE.
It's so easy. Just remember one number. 1-800-800-ROSE. Your FTD florist.
1-800-800-ROSE.
Remember.
For a gift that your loved one will treasure for a lifetime, find it at our family-owned jewelry store in Iowa City, Harty and Captain Jewelers.
We can show you diamond engagement rings, colored stones, fashion jewelry, and watches.
Our jewelers are on site, so we can design jewelry for that special person in your life.
We are Harty and Stalker, serving Iowa City and the surrounding area for 3 generations.
Harty and Captain Jewelers, downtown Iowa City, and HartyandStalkerJewelers.com. Ask for Willa, Terry, Tim, or Kate. One of us is always there.
Don't wait for an emergency to get a backup for your car keys. Unlike the olden days, car keys have gotten extremely complex. Mike's eKeys for Cars can generate the most technically advanced automotive keys that are on the market today. For spares and lost keys, Mike's eKeys for Cars can produce most conventional transponder, high security, and remote head keys. Mike's eKeys for Cars will keep you on the road. Call 319-330-9185 and schedule an appointment today. Don't wait until it's too late. Call 319-330-9185 today.
Deary Brothers Ford Winter Clearance Event. Warm up to these hot deals. Get a new 2023 Ford F-150 XLT Crew Cab. Up to $6,000 off MSRP. Plus 1.9% financing for 72 months. Get a new 2023 Ford Bronco Sport. $1,500 rebate. Plus 1.9% financing for 66 months. 75 pre-owned cars and trucks. Clearance price. Plus top dollar for your trade. Hurry in before these hot deals are gone. Or shop online at DearyFord.com. Deary Brothers Ford in Iowa City, here for you.
GT Carr, owner of Suple's Building and Remodeling, has been offering unmatched service and quality for over 25 years. The trained professionals at Suple's Building and Remodeling will install and guarantee the products used in any job, no matter how big or small. They also stand behind their work and offer no-nonsense, exceptional customer service from design to completion and beyond. Whether it's a simple window replacement or a major house addition, you'll have the confidence that Suple's Building and Remodeling is committed to quality. Visit suples.net or call them today at 319-337-2246. When you go to a family restaurant, you want 3 things. 1, a wide selection of breakfast, lunch, and dinner items. 2, you want those selections to be affordable and delicious. And 3, you want to be treated like family. You get all 3 at the Midtown Family Restaurant. Breakfast items available anytime the doors are open. Legendary tenderloins, onion rings, and hot roast beef sandwiches, and special ribeye and shrimp nights. Daily specials at each location, and no matter if you're coming in solo or with a group of 20, you get the same special family treatment. The Midtown Family Restaurants at Court and Scott Streets and at the Walmart Plaza on Highway 1 West. Follow them on Facebook or at MidtownFamily.com. The family's waiting for you. Car won't steer? Call Premier. Premier Automotive in North Liberty offers full-service mechanical auto repair work in addition to being Eastern Iowa's most trusted name in auto body repair. Use Premier for all your auto repair needs. Brakes, oil changes, air conditioning, diagnostics, transmissions, or preventive maintenance. Whether you hit a deer or your car won't steer, see Premier Automotive in North Liberty.
Don't let just anyone take care of your smile. At Diamond Dental, you can expect compassion, expertise, and a personalized care plan to protect your teeth for life. With more than 30 years of combined experience, Dr. Forbes and his staff are prepared to tackle even your toughest dental problems, leaving your smile healthy and sparkling. Diamond Dental offers a full range of general and cosmetic dentistry, as well as dental treatment options for snoring and sleep apnea. It's never too early to start thinking about what's best for your smile. Schedule an appointment today by calling 319-390-3703 or visiting the office at 5815 Consul Street Northeast, Suite D1 in Cedar Rapids. You can also visit DiamondDentalPC.com for more information. Dr. Forbes is a proud sponsor of the Hawkeye Wrestling Club and the Inner Circle. Let the Diamond Dental team provide superior care for your entire family.
Dear U of I, just a note to let you know, if you're ever thinking about selling Kinnick Stadium or Carver Hawkeye Arena, please consider Hawkeye Title and Settlement. We're here to provide efficient, high-quality real estate title and closing services. Signed, Hawkeye Fan Forever, and send. Hi, this is Steve Anderson with Hawkeye Title and Settlement. Whether it's a large commercial property or if you're buying your first home, remember, we're here to help. Hawkeye Title and Settlement Services of Iowa City. You'll love our team just like you love the Hawks.
Are you tired of living in a home that doesn't quite meet your needs? Then it's time to call the experts at Streets Maintenance. Their team of skilled professionals specializes in renovations and remodeling, transforming your home into the space you've always dreamed of. From kitchen and bath remodels to complete home renovations, no job is too big or too small. Streets Maintenance will work with you every step of the way to ensure your vision becomes a reality. So don't wait any longer. Call Streets Maintenance to schedule your consultation at 400-4483. Let's start building your dream home today.
Don't miss your chance to experience Big Ten basketball in Iowa City. Tony Perkins leads the Hawks onto the big stage of Carver Hawkeye Arena. Coach McCaffrey brings back 3 starters and welcomes an array of instant impact playmakers. Plan your trip to Carver. Visit HawkeyeSports.com or call 1-800-IA-HAWKS. On Iowa, and go Hawks.
84 years of preparation, the wait is over. The Oxyokin's brand new book, Our Recipes, Our Story, is on sale now. 90 pages in full color, 67 recipes, and our unique history for only $24.99. Get yours while they last at the Oxyokin. Available soon by mail order along with our current serving hours at Oxyokin.com.
The Oxyokin.
Oxyokin, in the heart of a man.
From the Harty and Stalker Studios, in the heart of the Hawkeye Nation, this is the mighty 1630 KCJJ, Iowa City.
Harty and Stalker Jewelers, making memories, making moments.
I'm meteorologist Brittany Merlot with a look at your weather ahead. Widespread fog. Dense at times, which is why a dense fog advisory is in effect until 11 o'clock. Some areas, visibility is falling to near zero, and it's also freezing to some cold surfaces, creating slippery surfaces. By this afternoon, we'll climb above freezing to the upper 30s, and a few pockets of sunshine may peek through as well. That's the forecast on the mighty 1630 KCJJ. Currently, it's 28.
KCJJ weather, brought to you by Plum Supply.
Plum Supply, kitchens and baths. Your home never looks so beautiful.
Fanatic.com is back and better than ever.
It is better than ever.
Yeah.
And we're going to prove it in the next 7 minutes.
What are we doing?
Going to prove that Hawk Fanatic is better than ever.
No, this next 7 will prove that it needs help, and then we'll get Don on, and then we'll start. The meter will start jumping.
It'll go back up.
Yeah.
Looking forward to the Super Bowl this year.
God, I felt bad for the Lions.
I did
Man.
too. I did too. I mean, I'm happy for George Kittle, but it would have been. I do think San Francisco's the better team.
Yeah, probably.
I love this narrative. The whole game they're talking about how unathletic Brock Purdy is. You see him run.
I think he's plenty athletic.
I mean, I'm not saying he's Lamar Jackson, but he can move.
But even he was criticizing himself.
But he's not. He's very self-deprecating. But the guy can move. I thought he did as much damage with his legs in that game.
And the second half, he was lethal.
Yeah, he was. And then, of course, the Kansas City game, the first half, Travis Kelce was incredible. Mm-hmm. And I just think it's so funny. The more they keep winning, I mean, MAGA hates them, and they're just, I mean, it's just the things that people get upset about are so
ridiculous.
The things that MAGA
because he got a vaccine.
Well, and because Taylor Swift is telling people to vote and
Yeah.
I guess that's it.
Telling people to vote.
The things that MAGA gets upset about is so bizarre. Travis Kelce's not. I mean, what he says about the vaccine. If you don't want to get the vaccine, don't get it. I don't care. But don't.
If you want to put yourself at risk, knock yourself out.
But don't tell us what to do. I just get so sick of that stuff. But I mean, they showed. I think I saw on CNN. What's that guy? Henry, the guy who does all the political stuff. The Anton, or you know what I'm talking about. He said they showed her 5 times during the game for a total of 33 seconds.
An average of 6 seconds.
He was
per
keeping
time.
stats on it. They showed her one time, and she could see her say, "Get the camera off me." Did she say that?
Yeah.
She doesn't want the attention.
No.
She doesn't need the attention. The best is I saw somebody MAGA saying the only reason she's dating him is because of his money.
Yeah,
she dwarfs him.
I mean, he's worth.
Hey, she dwarfs the team.
She's LeBron rich. She's right there with LeBron.
Well, she's a billionaire.
So's LeBron.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's about the only athlete you can. I mean, Travis Kelce has a huge multi-million-dollar contract, but that's not the same.
She is worth $1.1 billion.
Yes.
Billion.
What's Travis?
So what's Travis worth?
Travis Kelce's worth $40 million.
I'll say 35.
I mean, his contract's worth more than that. I mean, he signed a big contract. See what Kelce's worth. I mean, the last time you looked up LeBron,
$14.3 million.
Yeah, see, I thought he'd be worth a little bit more than that.
Too.
But his contract that he's on right now is worth.
His salary. That's his salary. Excuse me.
It's pretty good work
That's
if you can
pretty
get
good,
it.
yeah.
Pretty good work if you can get it. But it's not Taylor Swift.
No.
I mean, but that just shows you how stupid and petty and jealous some of these people are.
$40 million.
Okay, we were close.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's doing all right.
I mean, yeah, compared to normal people, he's a but to her, I mean, she probably wears $40 million.
Her concert last year contributed $2 billion.
But she does seem pretty down to earth.
Oh,
I mean,
she does.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but why people are bugged by their relationship is so bizarre. I mean,
because she wants people to vote.
She says, "Who cares?"
And he got a vaccine.
Now, if they were both Trumpers, oh my God, they'd bow at their altar.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they could do no wrong. That just shows you how divided.
And she doesn't really. I mean, there's a lot of crap out on.
I've never
Twitter
seen her say anything.
Where vote for this.
She's not like pro-Democrat.
No, she's not, and she hasn't said who to vote for.
No, she's just telling you to vote.
Yeah,
but that's considered a threat.
But you will see her. You will see lots of memes where she's telling you vote for Biden or vote for this. She hasn't told anybody to do anything. But
She's just
vote.
telling them to vote.
Yeah,
exercise your rights. I mean, I just. But it's just so funny how I saw one of the media influencers who's a big said he goes, I used to love the Kansas City Chiefs, but now Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce have caused me to hate them. They're the worst. I mean,
what the hell?
It's just
stupid.
It's just bizarre. My guess is when Kansas City and San Francisco start to play, I'm guessing I'll be for the Chiefs.
I will be too.
Slightly. I'm not a big,
I like the 49ers.
I like Patrick Mahomes, and I think if Patrick Mahomes wins this, that'll be 4 Super Bowl appearances in 6 years as a starter with 3 wins. That's even better than Tom Brady numbers. I mean, Tom Brady had a 10-year drought where he didn't win a Super Bowl. I mean, yeah, he went to 10 and won 7, but he also played 23 years. I don't think Patrick Mahomes is going to play 23 years, but if he ends up playing like 12 or 13 years and wins 5, 6 Super Bowls, he's going to be right there with Tom Brady. He won't match him. And Tom Brady, to me, is more like Bill Russell, whereas Patrick Mahomes may end up being sort of a Michael Jordan type. Shorter window, but wow, what an impressive
window
during a shorter period of time. But yeah, that win yesterday. I mean, they didn't do much in the second half, but they didn't have to because they did so much in the first half. That was an impressive win at Baltimore.
The Ravens' offense was a little iffy.
Yeah, they did. They gave up on their running game way too soon, I thought, and I thought Lamar didn't run enough. I think Lamar wanted to show that he's a passer, and I think he needed to run. I think in a playoff game like that, man, you need to just throw caution to the wind. There were so many times where I thought he could break from the pocket and run, but he didn't.
And from now on until I die, I'm going to be uncomfortable with a 24-7 halftime score.
Well, that was the score.
Ever since 2002.
That was the Iowa State.
Yes.
Iowa score, 24-7.
And then the Lions yesterday had 24-7.
Ended up 30. Yeah, that's right. Ended up 36-31, I believe the Iowa State loss was. We got Don on?
Yes, I do.
Good morning, Don. How are you?
I'm well. I'm well, Pat, and how are you?
Not bad. We're doing this an hour later than we
bad.
normally do. We got our basketball fix in with Adam Haluska. Now we're going to talk some Hawkeye football, and I guess obviously the main story right now is Iowa. I don't believe Iowa has announced anything yet. I haven't checked email but the story broke yesterday. Tim Lester, former Western Michigan head coach, current advisor for the Green Bay Packers, and former coordinator and play caller at Syracuse 10 years ago, is going to be the new coordinator. Don, just your opening thoughts.
Well, a couple of things come to mind. First off, I want to say up front, I'm going to be able to reassure the fans that this is a good choice. And it's not because I'm going to cook up some wild and crazy story. It's simply because I just got off the phone with Scott Schaefer a while ago this morning. Scott Schaefer was the head coach at Syracuse.
Okay.
He's a guy I've known for a long, long time. He used to be at Northern Illinois when I went to Western Illinois, and he's one of the most outstanding coaches I've known in my lifetime. And he's been coaching all these years to back that up, I guess. He's no longer a young man, but he certainly had a great coaching career, part of which was at Syracuse. He told me this. He said, Tim is an outstanding coach. And he said, I'm so happy for him that he's got a good opportunity at Iowa. And I'll tell you exactly what went wrong at the end of our Syracuse years. In that last year, we ended up playing 5 quarterbacks. We got down to our 5th quarterback, and he said that had everything to do with our failure.
Okay, that's fair enough.
And I think the numbers did take a radical turn in that last year at Syracuse.
Yeah, they were 5-14 in the 19 games that he was the play caller, stretching over the 14 and 15 season.
But I think if you go back and look, 5-14 is part of the equation, that's for sure. But I think in a lot of those games, they simply got outscored. I don't think it was because they weren't making points.
Okay.
Now, I could be wrong. I haven't gone back and looked at that extensively, but I have talked to the head coach of Syracuse at that time, and he said our problems were tied into that last year. We lost our jobs because we got down to 5 quarterbacks.
Okay, no, that's fair enough.
Fifth quarterback.
Yeah, that helps. That helps to explain it. I mean, so what? Okay, go ahead. What else did he say? What is so impressive about Tim in Coach Schaefer's opinion?
He said Tim is a really hard worker. First off, Tim played quarterback, as you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he had success as a play caller. Very definitely had success at Western Michigan. And I think they had some of the same issues. I think their star quarterback got injured, I believe.
You're right.
I think that's true.
Yes, it is true.
Yeah, so those numbers in all but 1 year, I believe that last year again, were good. You know, they were outstanding numbers in terms of offensive production. So the fans may not want to hear it, but it does matter who's out there taking snaps. And if he's the guy that was way down your depth chart, that's not a good sign.
No, and from the research you've done so far, what would you expect to see? Slight changes to Iowa's offense, basketball on grass, or more of the same?
That's a good question, and I wish I could tell you for sure, Tom, what the answer is. But I do think this. One thing Scott did say, he said one of the things I always appreciated about Tim is he understood that you had to find a way to do things with the players that you have. In other words, you got to be adaptable with your offense. Mm-hmm. We had a discussion a few weeks ago. There was a fan that called in or texted or whatnot and said, one of the reasons I'm not excited about Washington's offensive coordinator coming to Iowa, even if he comes, we don't have the personnel to fit that offense. And my response is really, really good coaches are adaptable. Mm-hmm. They adapt the offense to fit the players that you have. That's what great coaches do. And I'm not going to sit here and argue that he's a great coach. I don't know that. I know he's certainly an outstanding coach or whatever word you want to use, above average as a coach. He is innovative. He is adaptable. I know that primarily because Scott Schaefer told me, and Scott Schaefer wouldn't lie about it.
Sure.
I started the conversation with Scott. I said, Scott, I'm so glad to catch up with you this morning because I got to go on the air at 10 o'clock. And just so you know, I won't even mention you by name unless you tell me that you would like for me to do that. And he said, Coach, I have no problems at all with you mentioning that we've talked and that we know each other well. And he said, you know me, I'm not going to lie to you about Tim Lester. I'm going to tell you the truth about Tim Lester. He's a hard worker. He was a really, really productive quarterback in his own right. He's an excellent play caller. He said his downfall was that we got down to our fifth quarterback. And we were really good in other years, even though our record wasn't great. I suspect if you go back and look at a lot of those games.
Well, Don, I got him called up right now. And there is some strength, a lot of truth. Okay, Syracuse, they only went 4-8 in 2015, and I believe that's the season we're talking about because he took over play calling midway through the 14 season. So I'm looking at 15, and you're right, though. Okay, I'll just read off. I mean, I know they only won 4 games, but here's Syracuse's point. They won their first game 47-0 against Rhode Island. They won their second game 30-17 against Wake Forest. So there's a 47 and a 30. They won their third game against Central Michigan 30-27. So in all 3 games, he's already met the 25-point performance incentive. I say that kiddingly. Okay, they lost to LSU 34-24. So that's still 24 points. Okay.
Scott mentioned that game. He said we were in the game with LSU even that year.
Okay, and they lost.
I don't know.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say I don't know what LSU's record was that year, but let's face it, LSU is always good.
Yes. Now South Florida they lost, but it was 45-24. Okay, Virginia they lost 44-38. So I mean, like I said, these numbers. Pittsburgh they lost 23-20. Florida State they lost 45-21. So and then they were struggling at the end. Louisville. This I believe though was with Lamar Jackson. Louisville was really good. They lost that game 41-17, and then they lost to number 1 Clemson 37-27. So I mean, and then they lost to North Carolina State 42-29, and then they beat Boston College 20-17 to end the season. So that was a decent amount of scoring. Yes, you're right. It looks like they had bigger issues on defense than offense. And you're saying in the 15 season is when they were down to their 5th quarterback.
Yes.
Okay, so that does paint a more positive picture than just, I mean, because like when I looked up the stats, I didn't go into that detail. I just saw that they were 5. I saw when he took over as the play caller and then counted the 19 games and they were 5-14. But there is some explanation to that. I get that.
Yes, and let's face it, Scott certainly had a good idea of what was done at Western Michigan, and that he knew Tim, of course, from his Western Michigan days as a head coach too. So he said, "You're getting an outstanding coach. He's a wonderful person. He's a great family man. He's all the things that you would expect that Kirk would value in a coach. Mm-hmm. He knows how to treat his players." So I was really encouraged with all of that. And here's another little angle I'll throw on this whole story. I want to take you all the way back to 1981.
Okay.
We had an offensive line coach that went back to Texas after 2 years here. I believe he went to Texas Tech. I can't recall where he coached next. But anyway, Clovis Hale was his name. He went back home to Texas.
I remember him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Hayden said, I think he even said this publicly, he said, I will probably get a guy from the NFL that I know. Well, he turned around and hired a young guy that was 20-something, and people are all doom and gloom about who he hired as an offensive line coach. And the guy he hired had learned from Joe Moore, who was a great coach at Pittsburgh, and that guy, of course, is Kirk Ferentz.
Mm-hmm.
That hire worked out well, too. Even though the fans didn't think it was going to, it did. So I just want to remind the fans, have faith in Kirk's judgment. And now you can feel a little bit better because with Scott's blessings, Scott said, yes, you can tell them what I know about Tim Lester. I'll be happy for you to use my name, and that's why I did it.
Okay, no,
excellent. That's good information.
So, Don, do you think?
So I'm very encouraged. I'm very encouraged with all this. I realize it's not the guy that the fans thought they had, but they need to have a lot of faith in Kirk's judgment. And I know a lot of fans would argue that right now, but trust me, Kirk has good judgment when it comes to picking players and picking coaches too.
And what I don't understand, and Tom and I were talking about this, some fans seem convinced that Kevin Johns would have been better than two. How do we know that?
We don't.
There's no way of knowing one is going to be better than the other. I mean, that's just a silly narrative. Some fans seem pissed that it's not Kevin Johns. And I mean, why would you care if it's him or Tim Lester?
Because most fans and 99% of the Iowa fans never heard of either of them.
No,
so why would
until
they?
About a week ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't get the angst over that. So, Don, I want to ask you, one of the concerns is, well, this will just be another yes man and nothing's going to change on offense. And maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think Kirk thinks many things need to change on offense. I think he gave us that. I think he gave us that indication back in December, and he said, guys, we're not shifting to the run and shoot and start doing Mouse Davis plays. Don't you believe that Kirk still thinks that they can be successful if they just do what they do better? I mean, do you anticipate them making major offensive changes in philosophy next year?
No.
I don't either.
No, and I think we need to, same thing I've said in the past, I think we need to expand our offense.
Sure.
I think we're going to do that. Tim Lester's going to have different ideas than what our current offensive staff has had. And he's going to be able to sell some of those ideas to Kirk, and we're going to see some of those plays next fall, I'm sure.
But like it's not going to be a spread. They're going to do what they do. But you've always said, Don, it's little things like maybe take more chances downfield, maybe be a little more up tempo, whatever. Right. It's little subtle changes. I mean, but I think a lot of fans, Tom, don't you think they want to see 5 wideouts in a running quarterback and spread and down, and they're just not realistic.
I think we're going to see more out of the shotgun. From what I could see, he kind of liked that formation.
Assuming Cade McNamara is healthy.
Well, yeah,
I mean, that's all the other concern. But Don, what kind of offense did Schaefer? I mean, did you look it up? How similar is what they did at Syracuse to what Iowa does now? Can you answer that?
Well, I do recall Scott saying this to me. He said, first off, he said, I've known Tim Lester a long, long time, and I remember him as a player at quarterback. He was an outstanding quarterback. He said what we would refer to as a gym rat, maybe. Mm-hmm. He's a guy that, but let's not forget, he's coached a long time. I say a long time. I don't even know how old he is, but he's not as old as I am, of course, not even close. But the point is, he's a veteran coach. And let's face it, years ago, and let's back up, if he coached in the MAC, we know this. One thing you know for sure is he's not been overpaid in his days at the MAC.
Okay, fair enough.
They don't have the same kind of money. Here's my point with all that. He's coaching for sure for all the right reasons. He hadn't done this for the money. Finally at the end of his career, he's made some good money, that's for sure. He's been rewarded for his efforts. But he's, as Scott said, he's a ball coach, and he didn't ever want to be anything other than a ball coach. And he's good at what he does. And he works hard, and he's a grinder. He used that term. I promise you he's going to work hard to develop the best possible plan. He's going to be adaptable. So, yeah, we're going to see some plays we haven't seen. But some of the video I looked at from Western Michigan, it involved 2 tight ends. Well, that's no shocker. That we happen to have good tight ends, so I'm sure 12 personnel is going to be a significant part of what we do. But I don't doubt for a minute we're still going to have other formations. We're going to operate with 11 personnel, I'm sure. 1 back, 1 tight end, which means 3 wideouts. We're going to have that, especially if we can find 3 wideouts we're really excited about putting on the field. So smart coaches put the best players on the field. Mm-hmm. And if they have to adapt those to those players with specific formations, then that's part of what they do. So I'm sure we're going to see a lot of tight end play, and that's what we've always seen. That's what Kirk feels confident in. We are tight end you. It makes sense that we would have at least 1, if not 2 tight ends out there all the time.
When I look at his run at Western Michigan from 17 to 22, it looks like they didn't give him much chance to struggle. I mean, they were pretty good his first few years. They went 5-7 his last year, and then they just fired. I don't know. It just seemed like they got rid of him pretty quickly based on how he had done there. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. That was just my thoughts, Don.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, the offensive numbers were really good.
Until the last year.
Until the last year.
It's like they gave him.
Yeah.
It's like they based so much of it just on that last year. When all those other years they were over.
I am aware that Kirk made a comment before we played Western Michigan this past fall that he was surprised that they'd made a coaching change. Remember him saying that?
Yes.
And that simply is Kirk's way of saying, Western Michigan's been pretty darn good in recent years. I'm surprised they decided to make a change. Well, they did based on that last season primarily. They certainly didn't base it on the previous 5.
Yeah, no, I just thought that was odd. They got rid of him pretty quickly.
And compared to the numbers Iowa's offense has been putting up the last 3
Even
years.
his last year up there.
They look like video game numbers comparatively.
The last year he was there, they averaged like 325. That's 100 more than what Iowa averaged this year. Yeah. So.
Well, what excited me, I was in preparation for this interview, I was hoping to catch up with Scott because I knew here's a guy that knows him really well. As a matter of fact, Scott hired him to come to Syracuse. He must have thought a lot of him when he hired him. How did he feel about him at the end when they lost their jobs? He still felt good about Tim Lester. It was tied into injuries. It wasn't tied into a bad coach. So I think that's really good to know. And this is coming from a guy that I know I can trust. I've known Scott ever since my early days. What am I kidding? What am I thinking? I knew him even when I was at Iowa because he was a younger coach at the time, but he was a guy that was coaching at Northern Illinois. The very first game that I had as a head coach at Western Illinois was against Scott Schaefer's defense at Northern Illinois. Here's the rest of the story. I wanted to hire Scott Schaefer to be my defensive coordinator at Western Illinois, and I would have done that except for the fact we only had 3 assistants on each side of the ball back then in FCS football. So I had 3 on offense, 3 on defense. I wanted Scott to be my defensive coordinator. He was a DB coach and one of the very best I've ever known. The only problem is if Scott was my DC as a DB coach, I needed to find, in my mind, I wanted a black coach on both offense and defense if I could find the right coach.
Mm-hmm.
And if I could have found a really good linebacker coach or D-line coach that was a minority hire, Scott Schaefer would have been my defensive coordinator. That's how much I thought of him for how he played defense and how he's coordinated defenses. He's a defensive expert. I said this to Scott at the time. I said, Scott, I've known 2 what I consider great secondary coaches that are right now coaching football. I'm not counting Bill Brazier because Bill was retired. Those 2 coaches were Scott Schaefer and Bobby Elliott. Those are the 2. And I said that, and I meant exactly what I was saying. Scott, if I can find a minority coach to coach D-line or linebackers, I want you to be my coordinator and coach DBs. He would have made that move, too. I told him today on the phone, I said, one of my regrets in coaching is that you and I never got to coach together. That's how much respect I have for Scott as a DB coach.
So, Don,
as a defensive coordinator.
So, okay, Kevin Johns, we know he interviewed last week. Obviously, Lester was one of the later interviews. Let's say they both were, qualifications-wise, Kirk considered them equal and was going back. How much do you think Kirk's decision came down to who interviewed better? Who was just gave him better during that moment? You've been being interviewed. You've done interviews. How much of it is settled during those moments being interviewed?
Well, let's face it. When you get a guy in a room interviewing for a job, of course, Kirk has an idea what questions to ask. He's asked those questions, I'm sure. I don't doubt that he felt good about both those candidates, but maybe he actually felt better about Tim. I don't know that. That's for Kirk to state if he felt that way. Maybe he did feel better about Kevin. I'll just say this, and I don't know what the circumstances were, but based on what I've heard, this has nothing to do with talking to football. It just simply relates to me reading message boards and whatnot, just like the average fan does. If there's any truth to the fact that Kevin Johns simply needed a little more money, then at that point I would tell him to go to hell because it shouldn't be about money. And that's really how I feel. And I don't think Kirk might have felt that same way. Are you telling me that 1.1 1 point something might not be enough money, you can just go somewhere else as far as I'm concerned. That's how I would have felt.
Okay, that makes sense, especially since he's unemployed.
Yes, yeah, and quote came out that Coach Ferentz said that Tim Lester hit it out of the park with his interview. What would that look like?
Yeah, was Kirk quoted as saying that?
Yes.
Who quoted him? Was it in a story? Or?
It was Rittenberg.
Oh, so it was hearsay. It wasn't a story with an interview with Kirk.
Yes, that's right.
It was not Kirk being interviewed. It was somebody saying what Kirk had said. Hearsay. Okay.
Correct.
I just want because I don't believe.
No,
Kirk
that's
said,
right.
Yeah, Kirk has not done any interviews.
So what? In an interview like that, I mean, would it simply be a comfort level kind of thing, or?
Yeah, exactly. Just so fans have an idea. When Kirk, I don't even know if Tim has been on our campus. For all I know, Kirk interviewed him somewhere else. I'm assuming he's been on our campus. I guess he's maybe been here before anyway as an opposing coach. But the bottom line, when you have a chance to sit down with a guy, and part of that time is spent with certainly with the entire, I'm assuming the offensive coaches in a meeting room, maybe the entire staff in a meeting room with the candidate. Not to mention, of course, the head coach having some one-on-one time with that candidate. I say sometime. It wouldn't surprise me if it was hours on end. I mean, it's a big decision. I don't doubt that I'll say it this way. If a coach is only in town for a couple of days, that time is all going to be spent in meetings. It's not going to be spent it's not a lot of time going to be spent looking at buildings. A lot of that time is going to be spent in meetings, talking to someone face-to-face, some of that time one-on-one, some of that time in a group setting with other coaches. I don't doubt that Kirk has an idea of what the rest of the staff thought about each of those candidates. Maybe it was a coin toss to begin with, and then maybe as time goes on, maybe he clearly felt very comfortable with Tim as a candidate. If Kevin Johns turned it down and at that point Tim was offered the job, that doesn't concern me greatly because it tells me that Kirk felt good about two men, not one. Kirk would not have just settled for Tim Lester. He felt good about him, and otherwise he wouldn't have offered him the job. Otherwise, the search would continue.
Well, yeah, and there's reports that Chris was targeted, turned it down, withdrew his name. Philbin kind of faded. I mean, from the beginning, there was a lot of talk about Philbin. And like we said, Don, we don't know. Philbin and Chris both may have decided. We don't know how they moved on for sure. Philbin may have decided that he wasn't interested. We don't know.
Well, I know that Hayden's attitude toward players was the same attitude he had towards coaches. If you don't want to be here, then I don't want you to be here. I want people to join this program that are excited about representing Iowa, and I have no doubt that Tim Lester feels that way about Iowa. If Chris Johns wasn't all warm and fuzzy about coaching for Iowa, then I don't have any use for Chris Johns.
Kevin, here's a hypothetical for you. I'm curious. Let's say Philbin wanted this job the whole time. Could you see Kirk picking Tim Lester over Joe Philbin? If Philbin was, yep, Kirk, I want it if you want me. I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot, but would it surprise you, or do you think maybe Philbin wasn't as available? Or, I mean, you know what I mean? Yeah.
I'm certainly not going to sit here and suggest that he wanted Tim more than he wanted Joe Philbin. I certainly don't know that. I'm sure Kirk, I've already stated publicly, I have great respect for Joe Philbin. I think he's absolutely an outstanding coach. And I'm sure Kirk still has that same assessment of Joe Philbin, too. I don't know what the circumstances are behind Joe Philbin not being here. I don't know that in the end, Kirk felt that Joe Philbin was a better choice than Tim Lester.
Yeah, we don't know.
I don't know that.
Yeah.
The one thing I'm sure of is Kirk was more than comfortable with Tim Lester as our next OC. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been offered the job.
No, you're right about that. Yeah, I mean, Kirk's going to – now, the cynic's going to say, well, Tim Lester, if he knocked it out of the park, must have just said what Kirk wanted to hear. You know what I mean, Tom.
Yeah.
That's out there.
Yes, of course it
That's
is.
out there. And whether – I don't think it's fair or necessarily accurate, but there's a lot of fans out there, Don, right now, like it doesn't matter who the coordinator is. It's Kirk's offense and nothing's going to change. What do you say to those fans?
Well, I'll be surprised if Kirk doesn't care greatly about whoever the new OC is, doesn't care greatly about what he thinks about ways to move the football Let's face it. Fundamentally, I think now I think our coaches have a better idea that we need to expand the offense. We need to have some new ideas. That's why we're interested in hiring someone with a background, certainly that's a little bit different than Kirk's, and that would have been true especially for Tim, because Tim certainly had a background that didn't relate directly to Iowa football or even indirectly to Iowa football. So the numbers are encouraging. There were a lot of good years in there in terms of productivity, and you still have to be good in other aspects of play other than just offense. You heard me say before, the game is 3 games within 1, and you better be good at least in 2 out of 3. We've been excellent with offense at times in the past, not so much in recent years, but there's no doubt that going forward we're still going to be a force on defense. It's not hard to imagine that our kicking game will again be above average. We're going to have a great chance to win those matchups next fall, both defense and kicking. And now we just need to be more competitive with our offense versus the opposing defense, and I think we're going to be able to get that done going forward.
And the other thing for Tim Lester, whoever would have ended up getting this job, the bar's not set real high. I mean, if Tim Lester gets that Iowa offense up to 75 or 80 next year, he'll be, Grantland Wright. He'll be the greatest coach ever. You know what I mean, Don? There's not a real high bar right now. And to me, I'm not saying that that's why he took the job, but there is I know there's pressure, but there's not. You know what I mean, Tom?
The bar's not
just
set
being
very
average
high right
is going to be great here.
Yes.
Well, and let's not forget, it says so much about our culture that any number of defensive players that did not have to declare to come back for 2024 have declared to come back.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That's a great sign. The culture is still really good. Those guys want to be part of success in 2024. So our defense is going to certainly do their part to win all of our games next fall. I'm confident in saying that because we got a great defensive staff in place, and the staff would tell you that might not count for much, except we got a lot of the right players in place also. So we're going to be good on defense again. We're going to be outstanding with our kicking game again. I know we got a new punter, but I have a lot of faith in LeVar for his ability to pick players on in those key positions of punter and place kicker. We got a place kicker coming back that's going to be good all over again. I know he didn't have many chances to prove it at the end of the year simply because we weren't kicking a lot of field goals and PATs. But, Drew's an outstanding kicker. He'll be that all over again this next season. I know he had a little spell there at Nebraska where we were concerned, but I don't doubt at all that he would have kicked well, both at Indy and at the bowl game if he had a chance to do so. I think kickers are a little bit like, you've heard me say about quarterbacks, Stephen, they're a little bit like major league pitchers. Sometimes they don't have the best stuff. But in general, they do, and that's why the best pitchers make a lot of money. That's why the best kickers make a lot of money, too, in the NFL, is because they very seldom have an off day. And I think the same can be said for Drew. I think he'll be the all-conference kicker this next fall. That's what I think.
It'd be great.
Well,
It'd be hard to find a better one because he's already made a lot of clutch kicks. Let's not forget about that Northwestern game.
Yeah, and when I look at the coordinator, I don't expect the offense to all of a sudden just go through this huge change or transformation. I'm hoping this new coordinator, for like example, Caleb Brown, finds a way to get Caleb Brown the ball in much easier positions as opposed to Caleb Brown having to make tough catches downfield on hard-thrown balls into tight windows, just little things like that. I'm hoping they can get Caleb Brown the ball on shorter pass routes where the catch is the easy thing. You get him in space, then he makes people miss. You see what I mean, Don?
Yes, I do. And let's face it, the players, I'm sure, if there are players on offense that feel that they haven't gotten a fair opportunity yet to perform, then they look at it as a new opportunity.
Sure.
Here's a coordinator that's coming in. He happens to be coaching quarterbacks. isn't any doubt. Do you think for a second that Marco is not excited about a new quarterback coach?
Yeah, former quarterback coming. No, I get you on that one, because the other thing is all the candidates mentioned during this search, Christ, Philbin, Marion from UNLV, Kevin Johns, and Scott Schaefer, and this is no knock on Brian Ferentz. I don't want it to sound – I have way more experience than Brian Ferentz had when he was promoted in 17, Don. I mean, so in that case, it's a step forward. There's no comparison between Lester's credentials compared to Brian Ferentz in 17.
Right. You're exactly right. Tim is a veteran coach. Tim, I'm sure Kirk would not have hired him if Tim hadn't presented to Kirk some ideas already in the interview process that are going to make us better on offense. And that discussion has been held. There's no doubt in my mind, one of the questions for Tim Lester is, okay, Tim, we know you know a lot about football, but let's be specific as it relates to Iowa. Give me some ideas about how we're going to be better next fall than what we've been.
Okay.
I'm sure that Tim was asked that question. I'm sure he delivered with a good answer. Otherwise, that would not have been done. The hire would not have been made otherwise.
I wonder if he mentioned getting the ball to Caleb Brown and easier. But you know what I mean, though. Caleb Brown's not a great receiver right now.
He just hasn't done it long enough.
He just hasn't done it. He still lets the ball come into his chest. And there was some of his drops came on hard-thrown balls into tight windows downfield. That's why I say get him those easy balls, even maybe lateral to him. Get him the ball so he can do what he does in space.
Yeah, that reminds me of our guy that transferred to Purdue. And
Tyrone
I think the
Tracy.
same thing about him as Brown. I said, you know, he's probably better suited to be a slot receiver.
Mm-hmm.
We just need to do a better job of getting him the ball in space. We don't have to throw it very far down the field. Matter of fact, we can throw it behind the line even on a bubble screen. Just getting the ball and give him a chance to run with it, but make it more catchable.
Yes.
And for that matter, if you're having trouble getting him the ball by pass, don't be afraid to hand it to him also.
Mm-hmm. Sure, yeah.
And that's exactly what Purdue did with him, and he was – correct me if I'm wrong, he had over 1,000 all-purpose yards for Purdue this year.
He did. It just seems like, especially with Brian Ferentz, that on offense, Iowa makes the players adjust to what they want more than Iowa adjusting to what the players have, if that makes any sense. And maybe this will be a step forward. Because, they're still going to want to run the ball. They're still going to go 60-40. But it is good knowing now that they have a former quarterback coaching quarterbacks. I don't know what this means for John Boudmeyer moving forward. I'm not sure if he'll be around. I don't know. But just the fact that they have a former quarterback now in charge of the offense, that's something to build on.
It would be hard for me to imagine that Tim Lester is coming here except with the understanding that he will also be coaching quarterback.
Yes. So they really don't need John Boudmeyer, do they?
Well, let's face it. Correct me if I'm wrong. We've only got 2 open slots for full-time coaches. One needs to be coaching quarterbacks and coordinating the offense. The other one, of course, needs to be a receiver coach.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm sure they're going to get that position filled. I've just looked on my emails. Still haven't seen anything.
Nothing official.
I still haven't seen anything official from Iowa. But, no, that's encouraging. What is Scott Schaefer doing now, Don?
Scott Schaefer, at this moment, you'll find this interesting. Even in recent years, he has coached. You know this about coaching. You know, he was the head coach at Syracuse. He lost his job. It's hard to ever have a second opportunity to be a head coach. We all know that. So what does he do? He's still a ball coach. He's coordinating defense in recent years, and he did it for a long time at Middle Tennessee.
Okay.
And I know people are going to look down their nose at Middle Tennessee. But if you're a football coach, the bottom line is you just need to make a living doing what you love to do. How are you going to do it? You're going to do it as well as you possibly can. I know Scott Schaefer to know that's what he's done. They incidentally had a key injury at quarterback again. Let's face it, if you lose a star quarterback, you're in trouble. And we went through that last year.
We sure did.
Because we felt really good about Cade, and then Cade was injured, and then it was a lot more difficult. So the bottom line is that his veteran head coach was fired. Scott was asked, Scott, would you like to be the interim? And he said, no, I don't want to be the interim because I want to be loyal to my head coach. I don't want to take advantage of his ill fortune. I'm not interested in being the interim. You know, he worked for the guy for a long, long time. You can go do research on Middle Tennessee. And I think he's only 57, maybe. I think he told me. He wants to coach again, but he's also confident that he will coach again. He's going to wait for that next opportunity. I jokingly said, well, if Phil Parker decides all of a sudden that he doesn't want to coach at Iowa,
there you go.
Yeah, I'll throw your name in the hat to come coach at Iowa because I know that you're an outstanding coach. Otherwise, I wouldn't have wanted to hire you back when I first got to Western. And his expertise, his defense. Here's the truth. I told him, I said, the two greatest DB coaches I've ever known, I'm not counting Bill Brazier again because Bill was retired at the time when I told him. I said, it's you and Bobby Elliott. And I didn't know Phil Parker at the time so well, but I knew this. Bobby Elliott was a great defensive.
He was.
And
a great motivator.
Yes. And I know about Scott Schaefer as a DB coach, as a defensive coordinator, because I've coached against him. Matter of fact, my first game at Western Illinois was at Northern Illinois. And Scott will remind me, you beat us that day, too. And I said, well, don't forget, Western Illinois has good talent, too. That's why we beat you guys. And Scott would say, well, you beat us because you thought outside the box. You've heard the story. I think I told it one time. On the goal line to win the game, on 3rd and goal at the 5, I ran a reverse for the winning points at the end of the game. And I will admit, when I called that play, I flashed back on the fact that I saw Wisconsin, when Dave McClain was at Wisconsin, run a reverse against us on the goal line, got hit in the head for -5, and the Wisconsin coaches got booed out of Camp Randall with that call. But I will admit, after the game, the media said, Coach, what would make you think to run a reverse with the game on the line at the end of the game? And I said, well, we still had 4th down, and I couldn't think of a single run that would gain 5 yards on the 5-yard line other than a reverse. And I really didn't want to throw, and I felt even if you hit us in the head and we lose 3, we're just as likely to be able to throw for the winning points from the 8-yard line as the 5-yard line, maybe more likely, actually, because you got a little more room from the 8. So that was my thought process. But Scott did say, Coach, that's a great call because nobody in this stadium thought it was going to be a reverse. And as Hayden sometimes would do to improve, sometimes the best call is an unlikely call. That call was a little bit unlikely, but if you think about my thought process, it makes sense.
Sure, yeah.
I didn't really want to throw. I didn't think we could run for 5, except maybe with misdirection. Incidentally, let's talk about misdirection last night. How about this? Detroit, on the 4th play of the game, runs a reverse.
I did not see it.
I didn't see it either.
Why? Because the 49er defense is all juiced up because they're playing at home.
That's a good
Is
point.
there a better time to run a reverse? I don't think so. You heard me talk about Michigan running a reverse against us in Kinnick early in the game. It was with the Heisman Trophy winner, and it went for a 50-yard touchdown.
I do remember that.
I remember that one.
I do. That was my first year up here in Iowa
That's a
City.
great call because we had players on the field screaming out reverse. It was just that nobody could hear them.
Okay, yeah, I do. My very first year up here in Iowa City. You brought up the assistant coaches. I'm just curious, when a coach like Kirk is in this process of hiring a new coordinator or whatever, how much is input from the assistants part of the process?
Well, I think it's safe to say it probably depends on how long the other assistants have worked for the head coach.
Okay.
Kirk may not value the opinions much at all of guys that have only been with us for a year or two, because maybe they haven't coached and certainly hadn't coached in the Big Ten for any length of time.
Okay.
He might value the opinion more of Phil Parker.
Obviously, yeah.
He's on the other side of the ball.
Okay.
I don't doubt that Phil Parker had an opinion about these offensive coaches too. Let's face it, he has a good idea of what bothers defense, and I wouldn't be surprised at all. I would certainly expect that Kirk, realizing that Phil is our defensive coordinator and officially identified as the best assistant coach in college football this year, I would be surprised if Kirk didn't get Phil's opinion.
Okay.
On the interviews.
Okay. Well, Don.
And I don't know that. Maybe Phil wasn't any part of those interviews. but I suspect he was.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm sure he probably was with all his experience. And it's interesting to get a defensive-minded guy's opinion of a guy you're hiring for offense. But, hey, I appreciate you coming on short notice. I called you yesterday, but I knew our listeners would love to hear from you with this hire that still has not been official. But, Don, we appreciate it. And like I said, I'll be in touch. Well, once we get closer to spring ball, we'll do another show as the news and stuff warrants it. But we really appreciate you coming on. Tom, anything else?
No, just thanks so much, Don, and go Hawks.
Well, those fans that are concerned, I would just remind them, maybe you're some of the same fans that were concerned back in 1981 when Hayden did not hire an NFL offensive line coach. He hired a guy that nobody knew much about. Turned out he was a darn good offensive line coach. And that guy's now our head coach.
Okay.
So
no, you're right.
Have faith in Kirk, just like you had some faith in Hayden years ago. Have faith in Kirk as well.
Okay. Thanks, Donnie. Appreciate it.
You bet. Take care, guys.
Always good.
I have no more guests, Captain. Now it's just up to us.
Oh, well, Hunter's not doing anything. He could be our guest. Or Molly.
Hello.
Hey.
Hello.
Hi.
Did they announce what Jim Lester's salary and contract term was?
No, Iowa hasn't released anything that I've seen.
I haven't. I just checked my email, so I haven't seen
checked ours. We don't have it.
No, Iowa hasn't released anything yet.
Yeah, I was looking, couldn't find anything either. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I don't think they've even released that he's the hire, have they, technically?
No. We haven't.
No, they have not. Yeah. No, they have not released it. This has all just been, I mean, I feel pretty comfortable with who I've talked to. And I know, like I said, the moment the story broke, local Iowa media, the first one came out, I can confirm it. Then the next one came out with 2 confirmations. Not just one, but 2. So yeah, I mean, but this is not that uncommon. And like I said, I didn't think it would be broken by anyone locally. I actually thought that Iowa would break it, but I didn't think it. I thought it would be Pete Thamel, but I still haven't seen anything from him.
Nope.
But the first one that I saw was Football Scoop, and then shortly thereafter, Adam Rittenberg.
ESPN.
So yeah, I'd be stunned from what I've heard from a few calls I've made that it's not him. But no, Iowa, as of this moment, has not released anything. May not release anything today. We don't know.
Maybe not.
I mean,
they're still ironing out a few details.
Could be, and they're not going to really. I don't think they're going to react. Oh, hey, it's been out on Football Scoop, and all everyone say we got to get this. I mean, they'll do it on their own time. They'll do it when they want it.
Yeah.
And maybe Kirk wants to announce both coaches at the same time.
That could be. You don't know. And I know with some fans, no matter what you say to some fans are going to listen to what Don said today, and it's going to go in one ear and out the other.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're convinced that it's just not going to be better until Kirk's not the head coach anymore on offense. And that's their opinion.
Time will tell.
Time will tell.
You're leaving now.
What
Only time will tell.
Oh.
Hello.
Hi there. Hey, great program today, guys.
Thank you.
I really enjoy it. How much do you think the new AD will have to do with, or will have had to do with this pick?
Not. I think she. My guess is she signed off on it. I don't think Kirk was going, hey, Beth, what do you think of Tim? I don't think there's any of that. That's just my opinion. I don't know for sure. What's that?
That's what I would have assumed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and any AD signs off on any hiring. Yeah, I mean, but I don't think she was in there searching for red flags. Nope, we're not going with Joe or next. No, I don't think it was
she
like that.
She has to approve the salaries.
She has to approve the salaries and stuff like that, but that's just common practice.
Yeah.
But I don't think she had anything to do with the field of candidates.
Right on. Hey, well, thanks, guys.
You bet.
Thank you. Program.
Thank
you.
So much. Great program, Captain.
One of the greatest
programs ever. I know Adam and Don are just privileged to be a part of it, right?
Sure.
Is that our line for today?
Sure.
Yeah, sure it is.
Yep. Someone said they listen and they love it when you ask me, what is wrong with you? And they say that you do that a lot.
Well, I wonder a lot.
They're like, multiple times on the show, he'll stop and he'll say, what is wrong with you?
I don't know that I do it a lot.
I've heard it.
And you do it, they say you do it in sort of a stressed out, concerned tone. Like you think that I have issues. Like maybe I need help.
I don't think there's anyone in this station that doesn't have issues.
What are you talking about?
Hunter, Molly, you guys got anything to say about that?
I'm insulted.
Hello. Hello. Okay.
Dude.
No,
this isn't that hard.
I don't. Yeah, what
yes,
happens?
It is for some.
What happens there? What went wrong there?
Voted for Trump. How do you like that?
Yeah, Civil War. What about? Are you guys ready for the Civil War?
Yeah.
I love the talk of the Civil War. Texas wants to succeed.
Boy, let them.
Let them.
Goodbye.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Hey, good luck defending yourself.
Yeah.
You know, just
Bye.
idiots.
Yeah, I've got my brother and sister-in-law are there, my niece, and
I got a nephew who lives in Texas.
They keep warning them, better conserve power, better conserve. Why don't you just plug into the damn grid already? And I mean, it's ridiculous. It is.
I have a nephew who lives in Frisco, right outside of Dallas.
Yeah.
He likes it down there. He's got a great job and whatever, but no, he acknowledges that there's definitely he's not a Trumper. He works with a lot of Trumper because he works in the financial industry. Yeah. But someone's got to live in Texas. Yeah. But this talk of Civil War and succession, it's just so silly.
We've already done that.
Yeah. And
they don't have they've got an economy, but it's not an economy that can support itself.
No.
Well, what are they going to do for a military?
Yeah.
What if Mexico decides it wants to invade Texas as its own? I mean, it's just so stupid. Some of the talk.
Santa Ana the Fifth.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just I don't get it. Yeah. But back to the Hawks.
Yeah.
But no, that was encouraging. I had a feeling Don was going to give us some positive news, but I don't think Scott Schaefer would have went out of his way to promote Tim Lester and just have it be a bunch of lies.
No,
I just don't think. I think it would have been something. Well, Don, I'm not. Scott and I, we had some success together, but I don't think Don would have been as enthusiastic. I think he was pleasantly surprised by what he heard in this, and I was not aware that Syracuse had the kind of injuries they did. That does give you an explanation for. And let's face it, Syracuse has struggled for a long time. Scott Schaefer's not the only head coach that has failed to stay over the hump at Syracuse.
Honest to God, and then I check our Facebook and the comments and under the article about him. It says Steve Campbell, Warren Davis. I don't see anything that the man had done that makes you feel good about it.
Well, that's a little strong. He was the head.
Nonsense.
I mean, he was the head coach at a MAC school for 6 years, and he's replacing a guy who, when he took over as coordinator, had hardly any coaching experience.
I think Kirk is trying to make Brian look good. Fans need to respond. Stop going to the game.
You bet. Thank you.
That's what they can do. I mean, if that's what they want to do, but I don't know why you don't at least give the guy a chance. I mean,
because they're right.
Yeah. I mean, I've voiced my concerns. My concern is that I just don't think the field of candidates was. I don't think Kirk had a lot to choose from.
Well, and that's fair enough.
And I think that's because of the hole they've dug themselves in offensively. But that doesn't mean that this hire won't work.
No, it could be a great hire.
You can have concerns, and it could still prove to be a great hire. Injuries will be a factor. The one concern I do have, though, is if Brian couldn't get Kirk to think outside the box more, then how is somebody not related to Kirk? But then I also say to myself, maybe Brian didn't try very hard to get Kirk to think out. Maybe Brian endorses everything Kirk says. I mean, they have nothing in common personality-wise. They're completely different. But, anytime Brian was given a chance to talk, he didn't really go step far away from the company line.
No, he didn't.
He seemed to believe a lot of what Kirk believes in. And my guess is Tim Lester does, too.
Or he wouldn't
have gotten
the
hire. But see, the problem is that's a concern for fans. They figured that, okay, if it's more of the same, then we're going to struggle. And, I see where they're coming from, because in fairness to these fans, Tom, these last 2 years have just been stunningly bad.
Incredibly
This decline
bad.
has been stunning.
Incredibly bad.
So I see fans are a little, what's the word I'm looking for right now? They're a little gun-shy, touchy, paranoid, negative. I get it. But there's nothing you can do but give this guy a chance.
No, and he has to be given a chance. And if you don't want to give him a chance, then goodbye.
That's your
if you don't go to the games, somebody else will take your place.
Somebody else is going to buy your ticket.
Yeah.
Now, you can't always assume that, though, guys.
Okay. In the infinite wisdom that is the message boards, okay, we had some moron come on and say, how do I cancel my Swarm membership after this ridiculous hire?
What was that person? So would that person not have done that if it was Kevin Johns?
I don't know. Who knows?
Who was he expecting? Ryan Grubb was never coming here.
No.
I mean, I don't. So what was this person expecting?
I don't
What kind
know.
of hire was he expecting to keep his Swarm membership?
And why do you think your $200 Swarm membership is going to make any difference, even if you do get out?
I just think that's stupid thinking.
Well, of course it is.
I mean, like what I wrote in my column, if you were one of these people expecting a home run hire, like somebody who was just going to come, and you're disappointed. Now, if you're somebody who figured that the candidates might leave something to be desired because of the state of the offense, then you're probably not surprised that someone like Tim Lester got the job.
Well, maybe Kirk thinks it is a home run hire.
I'm sure Kirk does, but Kirk thought that Brian should still be the coordinator. I don't think everything that Kirk thinks necessarily has to be considered right. I mean, I've questioned a lot of what Kirk does on offense.
Fair enough.
All I'm saying, though, is I think Kirk had a limited field of candidates.
Well, it would only make sense.
Yes,
Yeah.
because of the state of the program. Because, like I said, I just don't recall any Power 5 coordinators from anywhere else names ever surfacing in this thing. Whereas most Power 5 schools, when you see them looking for a coordinator, it seems like so many of the names mentioned are coordinators that are active at other schools. Whereas Iowa, like I said, it's either gap fill positions, unemployed.
Yeah.
And to me, that's a concern, but that doesn't mean this isn't going to work.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
I have kind of a rude way of thinking, but it seems to me that anybody who would want this job is an idiot. So no matter who it is going to be an idiot.
Why would they?
Yeah, but for $1 million,
$1 million, that's a pretty good gig, man.
And a chance to be average and be a hero if you're average. I don't know. I get what you're saying because
For sure.
This guy's hardly speaking alone. There's a lot of people that share
There
this
is.
right now. I get what
There
you're
are.
saying, but I do think that it's a little better than what people are.
It's $1 million.
It's at least $1 million.
Right. And not only that, as an offensive coordinator, you're coming into a situation where the defense is world class
Yes.
and the special teams are tremendous.
They may help you in this early adjustment period.
Yeah. I mean, anything's better than what we had, obviously. But
Yes.
Okay.
I think it's just going to be obviously more of the same.
Okay, and
Well,
you're not
and
alone.
You're not alone at all, and you might be right.
You might be right.
All right. I'm not going to cancel anything, though.
Okay,
Good.
There you
Good
go.
for you.
There you go.
Yeah. Good for you.
He's ready to keep grinding.
Yeah.
Keep forging ahead with the Hawkeyes.
Yep. Go Chiefs.
Yeah.
There you go. All right, thanks for the call. But no, that call right there represents a lot. I can only imagine what Caker.
I know, but it is. When it comes down to, it is $1 million
at least.
Yeah. So what the hell? Why?
A year.
Yeah.
And if he can hold the job for 3 or 4 years, 5 years, however long Kirk's here, if he turns the offense around, maybe he will be at the top of the list to replace him.
You never know. You never
No,
know.
you don't.
But even if he's not, he still will have made at least $5 million.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. There's something to like about this job.
A lot.
But like I said, there's also reasons to question this job, and I think the field of candidates is reflective of that. I mean, that's all I'm saying. And I know I keep harping on that, but that's my concern with this thing. But like I said, I thought that Iowa's offense would hinder Kirk's ability to attract Power 5 coordinators. That's not surprising to me. The search kind of went as I expected. Now, Tim Lester, that was a name that just came in late, but my guess is Kirk had probably put word out. I'm guessing Lester had let Kirk know that he's interested, but they had to get through the season. And that probably had something to do with the delay
I would guess.
in making the decision. And like I said, have you checked your emails lately, Captain?
I am right now. Nothing.
And the winner is?
I thought it was Tom Lester at first, the guy that played Ab on Twin Acres, who was a great guy, by the way.
And hasn't he been dead for 20 years?
Been dead, no, not that long. I had him on a show when I was at KFMH. Great.
Well, that's 30 years ago.
Well, I don't know. He was alive then. 31, but it was counting.
31. God, the 90s were 30. I mean, the early 90s were 30 years ago. The early 90s.
My oldest daughter's 30, so there you go.
Wow.
Oh, that's unbelievable.
Way to just show me up, Suter.
We got a little sunlight happening
Yeah.
here?
Yeah.
Hey.
And most of the snow's off my roof.
Excellent.
I mean, it's been such a nice, slow, gradual melt.
This is good. Well,
what's the high supposed to get today?
37.
Did I see yesterday? I was watching the 8:53. It was 61 in Bismarck, North Dakota, the other day.
Yeah, everything's all
usually it's minus 60.
Well, I know, but they were 30 degrees warmer than us at the time.
No, it's all effed up.
And then the next day it was supposed to be 50. I mean, think about that. You think it's all because of woke?
Woke.
What's woke have to do with the weather?
Oh, well,
it's a conspiracy.
Yeah. Well, how can there be global warming when it's so cold in Iowa? Yeah. Hello.
I just want to say good programming, you guys, from Southern Justin.
Hey, great.
Thank you.
Well, I will put
then
that.
We need to rethink.
Take that award that I won off of the wall and put that on there. Get a plaque, Suter.
Oh, I'm glad you liked it, Southern Justin.
Does this mean we're ending with them in?
I like Don Peterson. He's a good guy.
Don Peterson is the best guy.
He is.
Yeah.
And
best.
Says Northern Jason.
So.
Are we ending with the menus? Is that where we are?
I guess.
All right, let's hear them.
How's that gal of yours doing?
I don't have a gal. Southern Justin single.
She thinks you got a gal.
Who are you talking about? How do you know?
Jennifer.
She wants me to quit the song of the week and everything.
Yeah.
So are you hitting on any of the waitresses at either of the restaurants?
No waitresses. Just
a
single guy doing lunch menus and everything.
So the song of the week is the song of the week
trying to make a living.
The song of the week has become a trouble spot for you, though.
No, she wants me to quit everything, but I'm not going to do it.
So she's jealous of the time.
Only one rule, though.
She's jealous of the time. I'm going to talk over him. She's jealous of the time that you're spending on the song of the week. It's taken away from the building and molding of your relationship.
Yeah.
There's only one rule, though. I can only do the song of the week with Tommy. That's the rule now.
That is the ironclad rule.
How much time do you spend a week on the song of the week? How important is it to you? Because I know it's important to these guys here.
Very important to Southern Justin. That's the best segment on the Hey Lang Show.
Yeah, and I know Tommy relies on it heavily, and Captain even admits that
it's a ratings booster.
It's a ratings booster.
We're number one for a reason.
And it's the song of the week.
Yes.
With 100,000 watts.
Yes, we got 100,000.
Sure.
And we got Doug Peterson on every Monday during football season. and Andrew Horska during basketball.
So today, for the Iowa City schools, they're having turkey, sausage, mini bites.
Ew.
Steamed corn.
Oh, it is pissed.
It's very upset over the Lester hire.
Yeah.
Steamed corn, olive, garden-style salad.
Yum.
Peached diced cup chilled with Philly steak on bun.
What? Okay.
So the Iowa City schools got for the Regina Catholic School. Chicken nuggets,
yum,
steamed broccoli with fruit.
What's it so mad about?
Lester, it's got to be the Lester hire. It's got to be
probably.
It's got to be the Lester hire.
And today for the Burlington Iowa schools, they're all having a chicken patty in bun.
Wait. In bun, not on bun.
Chicken patty in bun.
And not with bun.
In bun.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Oven fries, garden salad, and pineapple tidbits. And that's lunch menus on Hawks Fanatic on the Mighty 1630 KCJJ.
Hey, right. Justin, what do you think of the Ronnie Lester hire?
Never heard of the Ronnie Lester hire.
Yeah? No.
Never heard of it, but good segment, you guys.
All right, always good to hear from you, Justin.
Yep.
So anything else, Pat?
I just think it's amazing that the song of the week is causing friction and division in his life. Seriously, think about that.
Well, we've had to address it a little bit here.
Yeah.
Tommy's had to put his foot down.
Yeah.
Well, because of the choices being made. Didn't he do the streak one time?
Yeah, there's been some bad choices.
What was it last week?
It wasn't last week because Tommy worked with me.
Oh. So the listeners went a week without
the song.
Yes.
Then you obviously owe them something this week, don't you feel?
So a double dip.
That's
this
just
week?
not fair.
No.
I think you should have 2 songs of the week.
Shut up.
It's just not fair to the listeners every week. They rely on that.
No.
And then you take it away from them.
What is
I just feel for your listeners.
No, I feel for them too. Believe me.
Every day.
Okay, but again, before we sign off on what is sort of unraveled, thanks again to Adam Haluska and Don Patterson. I like getting them on. It's neat having them both on. Talk basketball, talk football, and I thought what Don said was pretty encouraging today.
Yes.
And then to have the menus in here, this was just a good all around show.
I would call it great.
Yeah, this is just. I will put this down as my
High point
show.
Legacy show
of my 60 years.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Well, thanks for listening to Hawk Fanatic today, and Molly Suter is next.
Hawk Fanatic.
Check it out. It's free.
It's free.